I am carrying on with the Convenience Meals in a Jar series, and today it is... Welcome back! If you're new here, I'm Kathryn, the Aerogarden Homesteader, and today it is beef chipotle chili. So, I actually have a pepper from the Aerogarden. This is a heavy one, it must be full of seeds, but yeah. So, this one looks like a pretty simple recipe. It doesn't have a ton of ingredients in it. I do need to, I got my beans prepared last night. I started them soaking with some vinegar. This morning I rinsed them off, and then they are currently sitting in this pot, and I am going to bring them up to a boil and let them boil for 1 to 2 minutes, and then I'm going to turn it off and let them sit. So that will help them cook without totally becoming mush as part of the... Oh my gosh, what is wrong with that onion? I don't want them to be total mush, so that's why I'm doing that. Man, what is wrong with that onion? Alright, well, I guess we can not use the bad part. Nothing wrong with the rest of it. And once again, I will try to find the recipe below if I can. Some of these are in the Ball cookbook. If I can't find the recipe, I will at least link to the cookbook, if nothing else. But they're in the cookbook, and I just borrowed the cookbook from the library. There's onion skin in there. So if you just want a few recipes from it, just check it out from the library. See if your library has it. My library is pretty good. If I actually put in a purchase request and they think the community will use it, then they almost always buy it. Unless it's like a super old book, but yeah, maybe give it a try. Then you can save a little money. Because, you know, I find with some of the cookbooks, they're like, oh, there's like 3 recipes in here I want to try, and the rest are just like things I would never eat. And I don't want to buy a whole cookbook for it. So that is... I like checking the cookbooks out from the library first, so it gives me a chance to look through it, check out all the recipes. Maybe there's only 3 in there that I really want to try, or maybe it's a winner and I want the cookbook. So this one, the jury is out as to whether I think it's a winner or not. There were actually quite a few recipes that I kind of took note of that, ooh, that could be good, that could be good. So I am trying a bunch of the convenience meals, because that is something that, I'm just not a convenience meal person. I like to do the ingredient canning, because I feel like I have a lot more flexibility in it. But some of these meals, they sparked ideas. So it's like, it wasn't just a uni meal. It was, oh, I could do a couple of things with that. So I thought that, you know, that made the meal worth trying. But, you know, are there enough meals in the cookbook to make it worth purchasing? So that's what I'm trying to determine. And there's no point in getting the cookbook if we try the meals and we just don't like them, you know? If I will never make them again, then I don't need the cookbook. So, yeah. I just borrowed it from the library. We will see if it's a winner or not. I won't really know over the short term. That's going to be more of a long-term thing. Okay, so I do need 2 cups of onion chopped. I need 1 cup of bell pepper chopped. Now, something I have seen, this is like, I've seen it on the USDA website, so this is, I don't want to say it's gospel, but this is something you can actually do. You can swap out any pepper for any pepper. So if you want to make this spicier, if you think that the 3rd cup of chipotles in adobo that it calls for is not going to be spicy enough for you, go right ahead and substitute your bell pepper for spicier peppers. That might be a little bit too much onion. It's a very full 2 cups. I will take some of that out in a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to get that going, the bell pepper. Okay, bell pepper time. Let's see how full this is. Oh yeah, it's pretty full. It's pretty dense too. Alright, well hopefully there's a cup here, but if not, I do have more on the bush. Now, we are chicken fans. We love chicken. We also love chicken chili. We like beef, but we're not as huge a fan of beef as we are of chicken. So, this is a beef-based chili, which I'm sure it is fine. That's why I decided to give it a try. I am also going to be making a chicken equivalent. So I will be following the exact same recipe, and I will take you along for this because I want to show you the difference. There's really no differences in the process, but there's going to be differences in the end meal, just to show you what that looks like. So I will be doing this again, so keep an eye out for that, but I will be doing the chicken version. Now, there's really no reason why you can't swap out one type of protein for another. I think the difference would be, and I have kind of noticed this with some of the other chicken-based recipes I have been doing lately, is that I do think that it requires more headspace. I don't think this cookbook has been updated to the latest guidelines for giving chicken, raw packed chicken, the 1.25 inches of headspace, and I have noticed I've had a bit more siphoning on those jars than I have on any of the beef jars. So I think that I might need to start leaving a larger headspace on any of my chicken convenience meals. So it's just sort of something to take into account. So I will go over that further in the other video, of course. So this one is all about the beef. I had to clean out the freezer recently because there is some stuff, you know, it happens everywhere. The stuff trickles down to the bottom that doesn't get used as often, and so we had some stuff that's been sitting in there a little longer than I would like, and so it was just time to use it up. And what better way than to get some convenience meals on the shelf and use things up. Okay, my beans are to a boil. I'm going to let them boil for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to just turn it off. Turn it down so they don't boil to death. I will try to link the page that I found this on, this technique. I don't know that this is an approved method. The USDA wants you to cook your beans to death, and then when you can your beans, they're just mush. So this is not the no-soak method. I did soak them overnight. I did soak them in vinegar, and I am cooking them a little bit, but I'm just going to cook them for a very short period of time and let them sit in the hot water. So I think the hope with this is that everything will be al dente instead of mush when it goes in the jar, and then it will finish cooking in the jar when you are processing it, instead of starting off fully cooked and then turning into mush in the jar. I hate mushy beans. I hate mushy things. Okay, so I'm going to need this knife to cut up my beef. So I want to get my chipotle peppers all diced up. I'll probably just take the peppers out and I'll leave the sauce in there. I can transfer the sauce over to the cup, but really I don't need the sauce on the cutting board making a mess. But I need about 1/3 of a cup diced up. I think I got a chunk in there. There we go. Okay. That was the skin. Let's get this all chopped up, and then I need to clean up the knife and cut the beef up because I need to cook the beef. I'm going to brown it in batches. So my pot, the beans are done. I drained the beans, I rinsed the beans, I rinsed the pot. So it is ready to go for the next step. Let's see if we can make a big mess of this. Wow, that's pretty darn good. I bet you I can get a little more juice out, and that'll be the 1/3 of a cup. Okay. There's that. Let me get this rinsed and cleaned, and then we will cut up the beef and brown it. I have 4 pounds of beef, so this is the same stuff that I use to make Swiss steak with, so we just buy a massive cut of top round and we just cut it up into steaks. So it's whatever you have. It says to use stew meat. Oh, good thing I read it. It says to cut into 1/2 inch cubes, so I was going to go for inch cubes, but we can cut it a little smaller. These ones might be really small, and you probably want to try to get off as much fat as you can. I have a bowl over here. I'm just going to toss the pieces in. Just going to work my way through it. So this is 2 pounds right here. I've got 2 more thawing in the sink, and I will get it all cut up. I'm sure you don't need to see this. I'll skip to the next step. Okay, everything is cut up after I figured out what 1/2 inch was. So it says to season with a tablespoon of salt. This is canning salt or pickling salt. And a teaspoon, so a tablespoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. Let's get that sort of tossed together. I will need to track down another bowl. It says to brown this in batches. So brown, not cook. Okay, so move you over. Let's see what I'm doing. I'll show you how one batch and then I'll just blow through the rest of them. So, calls for a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Get that on a medium-high heat. I don't know if it actually specified what heat, but we're going to want a reasonable heat so it can brown. And for browning, you don't want to crowd the pan. So the less you put in the pan, yes, you have to do more batches, but the faster it'll brown. You get oil everywhere. that in the sink. Okay, so I have an empty bowl. So I'll get the cooked stuff in, and what are we getting there? I'm going to put a few in, just enough for a half layer. There you go. And I will get that browning. Okay, so I get a little bit of browning. The trick is a higher heat, so medium-high, definitely. And don't move it as much as I did. I feel like the first batch I always fiddle with it too much. So I'm going to get the next ones going, and I will also be dicing up some tomatoes, so I will show you what I'm doing with that. So while the meat is browning, I am going to work on some of the tomatoes as I have a chance. So these ones have been in the freezer. It does call for canned diced tomatoes. I couldn't find mine, so like I've said in a previous video, an inventory is only as good as the person using it, and apparently I must have just not updated that entry. So I could not find my quart jars of diced tomatoes, and I'm not going to open up a ton of pint jars of diced tomatoes just so I could have, you know, 6 cups. I have a whole bunch of these frozen tomatoes in the freezer, so we're just going to make it work. So you saw they peel pretty easily. I'm just going to cut them up into small cubes until I have 6 cups worth. That is literally all I'm doing. So between getting the meat browned, I will be cutting these up as well. Some are more firm than others, so the squishier ones, the ones that have had a chance to thaw, the skins will come off slightly easier just because they have softened the thawing. They've thawed. Wow, words today. Boy. And I'm not going to be too concerned about getting every scrap of peel off. Not like I've never used crappy cheap tomatoes that have skin in the can, so I will get what I can off and just chop them up. And I did clean my knife up, so don't worry about that. The beef is all done, so now it says to add in the onions and the peppers and give that about 5 minutes or so to soften up. Oops. Lost a couple. Now, as the onions release their water, we want to try to scrape up some of this stuff on the bottom called the fawns, just because that's going to be where the flavor is. Turn that down. Okay, the pan was still pretty hot from when I had the beef in there at a medium-high heat, so I just turned it down, trying to cool the pan off just a little. I don't want it burning. Okay, well now that everything seems to be softened up and I got that pan deglaze, it says to basically just add everything else. So let's add the beef and any accumulated juices. So in that goes. Let's add the beans and tomatoes, chipotle. Make sure we get all of that. And we'll get that last little bit out of the jar too. And there is one more ingredient to add. It is lime juice. I do not have any limes juiced right this second, but while this is gently simmering, I'm going to get some lime juice. I have 3 limes. It says it's about 3 limes worth, so it's a 1/4 cup. So I am going to get that prepared. Now I might need to let this simmer for a little longer than 10 minutes because my tomatoes are not canned, so they didn't have a bunch of accumulated juices in there yet. So I need them to sort of break down a little and juice up. So while that is gently burbling away, I am going to juice my 3 limes. So if you roll them, they might get a little more juice, or might just be a crap shot. You can also put them in the microwave and warm them up and get a little more out of it, but I have no idea how well those actually work. Are those old wives' tales, or do they actually work? Okay, so I will just squeeze into here until I have a 1/4 cup. That one feels like it got frozen. It's hard. Boy, that one did not have any juice in it. It's a shame. Let's make sure we got a 1/4 cup because my measuring cup doesn't say. Well, that was pretty darn close, so. Alright, so I'm going to let this simmer away. I have a little bit of tomato juice, just the liquidy stuff that comes off the tomatoes when they're thawing, that I will probably add to this just to make sure there's enough liquid in here. Probably won't take much. Alright, I will show you how this looks after 10 minutes and I start getting it in the jars. I'm going to get my jars started to heat as well. It has probably been closer to 20 minutes than the 10 it called for. I was waiting for my tomatoes to juice up. They juiced up quite nicely, actually. And I still am, waiting for my jars to warm up. So that took just a little longer than I expected. So now that they are warm, and this is simmered for the time it needed to, or more, I can start getting ready. So I have most of my canning stuff ready. I just need to get a hot, wet rag, and we can get filling. Okay, I am going to take the pot off the heat, move it over here, and I can start filling. Make sure you guys can see okay. So this recipe only has pint jar listed. So there's no quart alternative, or I don't know why you'd want to do it in a jelly. You could do it in a jelly, I guess, if you wanted to have a single serve portion. That would probably be handy, especially if you are a single person. Or you want to bring them in lunch. That would probably be pretty good too. So, options. Pints or probably jellies if you really wanted to. It does say to leave a 1/2 inch headspace, so I overfilled that one, of course. It's always the first one, isn't it? Okay. So, ooh, that is hot. Okay. Make sure that's actually 1/2 inch, or an inch I mean, don't do half, boy. Okay, get that wiped up and in the canner to keep heating it. And that's pretty much all there is. So this calls for 75 minutes of processing time, and then you just do what you normally do. This way. Now, according to the recipe, this said it would do 9 pints, but according to the marks on the side of my pot, I think I've got 5 quarts in here, so I might get 10 jars, not 9. Okay, I think it will be 9 and a bit. That is what it's looking like. Yeah, it's actually full. I don't know if you can see how much is left, but I don't think that's going to be a full pint jar, but we will see. Well, it actually got 10 out of there. So you may get 9, you may get 10. I guess it depends on how much you reduce it down by and how juicy your tomatoes are. There you go. I'll let you know how it turns out when it's done. Here is the beef chili. It actually turned out really good. We like to serve ours on rice. It really helps stretch a meal, but eat it however you like. It turned out really nice. So I hope you found this video useful. Let me know if you give this recipe a try. I'd like to know how you thought about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll have some videos up at the end that you might enjoy, and I will see you next time on the Aerogarden Homestead.